right, our next guest is a freshman senator now running as a Democratic candidate for President of the United States. Please welcome your senator from the great state of Illinois, Barack Obama, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming back on the show.
It is wonderful to see you, Dave.
Good to have you with us. Many things I would like to ask you, but first of all, are you still smoking cigarettes? Because
Nicorette.
The gum.
Well, it's my wife, actually. That she gave out my secret to the world, and then told America, if you see him, turn him into me.
Yeah.
And I'm terrified of her.
How long have you been? How long have you been smoking cigarettes?
Oh, you know, on and off. You know, you'd pick it up when you're writing a book or campaigning or, you know, low-stress activities like that. So I decided right before running for president, that's the optimal time to stop.
That's right, sure. Yeah. But I was thinking, and it's certainly not a good thing to be smoking cigarettes. It's a nasty, horrible habit. But it might be fun if we had a president who smoked. You know, just, how you doing? You know what I mean? Just kind of cool.
Blow smoke in the face of the Iranian president.
Yeah, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
And you see, now you're using the gum, so you're okay. You still smoking? Or are you okay with it?
No, the gum's working good.
Yeah, working good. Oh,
absolutely.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, I could use some now.
How do you like being a senator now? It's been two full sessions, 2 full years, right?
Being a senator has been terrific. We are now in the majority, which means at least we can stop some bad things from happening. In the Senate, you need... in the Senate, though, you need 60 votes to actually get a bill passed. And you know, we still haven't persuaded some of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle to straighten up, so we may need another election for that.
And also in terms of legislation, there is the ultimate, the veto, right?
There is the veto, and you know, that needs even more votes to overcome. And I know that the president has threatened to veto the most recent bill that we sent forward, putting a timetable on how much longer we're going to be in Iraq.
So where does that leave us?
Well, we'll see what the president does. I think that if he looks at the legislation, and I had put forward a bill back in January that said we should start a phased redeployment starting on May 1st of this year, having our combat troops out by March 31st of next year. The bill that we passed sets a March 31st target date, at least in the Senate. If he vetoes that, I think we are going to represent him with a bill that conditions in some way how he spends the money so that we can start creating a situation in Iraq where the Shia, the Sunni, and the Kurd come together for a political accommodation, because we're not going to be able to impose a military solution on what's become a sectarian civil war.
Right. And I think everybody is in favor of American men and women coming home, but still, what really, now you mentioned a political process to establish a truce, but what's the likelihood of that?
Well, I don't think there's any likelihood as long as we're there to keep a lid on things, because right now the Iraqis and countries like Iran and Syria are able to sit on the sidelines and watch us flounder. They can engage in irresponsible activity at the same time as they don't really have a stake in bringing about a more peaceful solution. And so we're going to have to, I think, be much more aggressive in terms of diplomacy in the region, both inside Iraq and outside of Iraq. And I think we can say to the various parties in Iraq that we want to be partners with you. We want to help you rebuild your country, but we're not going to be able to do it simply by sending more and more young men and women. And you know, when I'm in Iowa or New Hampshire or Illinois and you meet mothers and fathers who've lost their children there, and they ask, why are we still there, it's very hard to give them a good answer.
It's just horrible. It's just, the whole thing is just horrible. It's a horrible mess, but what happens if we leave, and everybody I think would like to get out of there, and we still get a horrible mess, and then we find out that there's trouble, as you mentioned, from other countries? Do we then just go back into other countries?
Well, I don't think we can be as careless getting out as we were careless getting in. I think we have to think through how we get out. We've got to do it in a phased fashion. We've got to have some flexibility. We've got to make sure that our commanders on the ground, our troops, are actually protected, and they've got the night goggles and the body armor and all the equipment that they need. And we've got to train up the Iraqi forces more effectively. But what we can't do is simply stay the course that we've been on over the last several years. It's not working.
It's a horrible, horrible mess.
There are no good options in Iraq. At this point, there are bad options and worse options.
Right. It was whether you believe we should have gone in there or not, still, it's our mess, it's our war, and we need to do something. And I think self-preservation, as you point out, is first.
We have strategic interest there. We've got humanitarian interest in making sure that there's not a complete bloodbath. But if we continue on the course that we're on right now without any significant change in course, we could be there for the next 10 years and see just a slow bloodletting both of Iraqis and also of U.S. troops. And we're also spending $100 billion or more each year in Iraq that we could be spending on building schools and hospitals and roads and bridges here in the United States and rebuilding our economy.
Now, here's an impossible question. At the end of the day, let's say there is some resolution. What will one have learned from this experience?
Well, I think there are a couple of things that we can learn. Number one is you don't go to war based on faulty intelligence. You tell the American people the truth. I think the decision to go to war is the most profound one that a commander-in-chief can make, and that means that you've got to tell the American people exactly why you're going. You have to have built legitimacy in the international community, because even though we've got the most powerful military on earth, once we're there, we're going to need help from other countries to make sure that we can actually win the peace. And I think that the other thing we've got to recognize is that the threats that we've got now from Al-Qaeda and other terrorist networks, the way we're going to win over the long term is not just militarily. We've got to win over hearts and minds. And what that means is we've got to invest in countries that have no educational infrastructure, have no means for young people to get ahead. We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
Now other than wanting to lead your country and make things better, is it a good time now to be wanting this office? Because look what you're or anybody for that matter, yeah. Look what you have ahead of you. I mean, this is not going away before the new president arrives.
I suspect that Iraq is still going to be on the table when the next president is sworn in. I think we've got major budget problems. We've got a healthcare system that is broken. But I also think there are enormous opportunities right now. The American people are paying attention in a way that they haven't, I think, in several decades. They really understand that we've got a series of choices we've got to make in terms of fixing the education system, the healthcare system. And when you mobilize millions of Americans and say, let's think in practical, common sense ways about solving problems, and let's get beyond some of the partisanship we've been involved in, the bickering and the slash and burn politics. People really respond. I think that's the reason why we're doing pretty well in this campaign.
Yes, but in getting back to the Iraqi situation, in many ways, including the loss of life, it really has been a terrible setback. Because now this has to be solved and rectified and repaired to the best it can before we can go on to all of those other things.
Well, we have set ourselves back in terms of the leverage we have in the world, in terms of our ability to persuade other countries to cooperate with us. And so we're going to have to fix a very difficult situation. But the one thing I always remind people, because they get discouraged, they say, people around the world, they're expressing hatred towards America. People outside of this country are expressing disappointment because they've got high expectations for America. And they want America to lead. They want America to lead through our values and through our ideals and through our example. But they have high expectations of us because I think that this country is still the last best hope on earth.
This is a tremendous suit you have.
You like this one?
This is a beauty.
Yeah. It's a presidential suit.
That is an electable suit. I would vote for that suit. It's a good-looking suit. We'll be right back.